how do you define the term a self-working trick?
Oh, boy, it's funny because so many of them claim to be self-working, but then there's math and other things involved behind the scenes. So I guess I would define it as something that is either done with a simple gaff or, with some simple mathematics or something like that, that you could pretty much, if you gave the secret to anyone, they could kind of go, oh, got it. And then after a few minutes of practice, at least get from beginning to end.
A self-working trick means it doesn't take any skill whatsoever to make the trick happen. It's a card trick that uses mathematics to do it. It's a trick that doesn't use sleight of hand. So basically, you get to learn how to do the trick without having to take years to practice, and then spend the time practicing on the presentation to make that self-working trick a miracle. And that's what great magicians do.
Yeah, and of course, there is no such thing as a self-working trick, except if it's in an automaton. You press a button and the guy with the mechanics does the trick. That's the only true self-working trick. Everything else, whether it is a mathematical trick or a mechanical trick, requires, it's not optional. A $8 trick or a $15 trick, whatever they cost, still requires some sort of explanation of what is happening and why it's worth 60 seconds or 3 minutes of your time.
I don't know. I mean, it's sort of trite to say, no tricks are self-working. I mean, I've heard a lot of bright people say that, that's a misnomer, that there's no such thing as a self-working magic trick, because every magic trick, takes practice and attention, etc. But that said, I think as a kid, I learned a lot of tricks that just by going through the motions, magic happens.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty empowering thing. And I think it's really enticing as a kid anyway, to be able to do something that really doesn't take much physical dexterity or skill. And I think it's it's like a gateway drug into magic. Maybe you're not doing magic, but you are fooling people, and some people get a big kick out of that. And so I think it's what got me sort of interested in magic.
The issue I think that happens a lot with self-working tricks is that they're very procedural. So there are a lot of steps that lead you to the magic, but to get there is often very, very boring. And so I think self-working tricks are often looked down upon because there's no flair or any entertainment value put into the process. But I think self-working tricks could easily be made entertaining if they're in the hands of the right person. I think just inherently because they're so long, or there's a lot of counting, a lot of dealing onto a table, 8 piles, that kind of thing, that I think we tend to kind of laugh at them. But I've never actually seen a self-working trick done with that kind of entertainment. So that'd be cool to see that. I never even thought about it.
I think self-working tricks require more work sometimes. Because when you have a trick that requires work, like sleight of hand or some mechanical assistance or some secret maneuvers, you have to create a presentation to disguise that, right? So it forces you, and it comes with, usually those tricks come with a presentation. Kind of whoever created the trick has a little narrative or story built around it. And sometimes you overpresent this to misdirect that thing you're doing, right?
Right.
Self-working trick doesn't come with that. So you have to write your own, you have to make it bigger than it is. I think it's almost harder sometimes to present a self-working trick. I mean, in a way, it's easier mechanically because you don't have to do any secret moves or palm cards or anything like that, or whatever the trick is. But I think you have to work harder on the other end, on the presentation end, to make it interesting, to make it seem magical. Because sometimes the self-working tricks, the method is closer to the bone. You're not providing good misdirection, or you're not. It's kind of, it might be more apparent. So you have to misdirect with your words, your stories, you have to misdirect their mind.
That's the most interesting thing I've heard to date about the self-working trick, is that it's not self-working. In fact, it takes more work to do a self-working trick that's magic.
To do it well.
Yeah, to make it look like a magic trick or something
I don't think it
astounding.
matters the method, if it's self-working or takes a lot of work. That's
Yeah.
kind of beside the point, right?
Right.
It's like saying a hammer. I use a hammer to build a house, or I have this pneumatic in 2023. These pneumatic, I could do a whole roof. If you build an ugly house, it doesn't matter which tool you use. You know what I mean?
If you have a presentation that is entertaining, the audience doesn't know if you've done 15 slides or if you've just done a self-working trick. They don't know the difference. I remember showing Terry LeGerald a routine that had about 6 slides, maybe 3 were pretty complicated. And I showed it to him and he said, "Do you mind if I rework this?" And I said, "Of course." And the next day he said, "I got this whole trick down to 1 pinky break." Yeah, that's the way he does it.
Yeah.
But you take something very complicated and make it more simple, more direct, more entertaining, and the audience, they love it.
And even if it's self-working, I need to make you to have sparkling in your eyes. I need you to dream. I need you to be taken somewhere else, even with a self-working trick. I think that self-working tricks are great for beginners it's a step to give them more, let's say, passion to go a step further and a step further. But a self-working trick can be a miracle. But a self-working trick is a miracle by itself, but you still need to make it magical. And the words are self-working tricks. It's not a miracle. No, you need to sell it as a miracle. Okay, it's a self-working trick. Okay, but we don't care about that. You still need to put your stamp, your personality to sell and to make it look like a miracle.
We used to have an experiment when I was working the Magic Castle when I was young and my friends were working, we'd work the close-up room. We would go to Hollywood Magic, and the idea was that I'm going to pick out your closer and you get to pick out my closer. So I would pick up the little the pecan, or one of the easiest, the ball and vase, or the little ring on a spring that's easy to take off. That's easiest, dumbest little trick, the little red snapper where you try to hook the rubber band and you squeeze the top and it snaps. Some little dime trick, and we go, "That's your closer today," even though they normally close with this wonderful cups and balls routine or roll over aces or some different thing. No, today you're closing with this. And we'd stand at the back of the room and watch each other. It was an experiment, it was a gag, but it was a great exercise in presenting this. And often it got the best reaction because we over presented these things. Everything I've done up until this point is well and good, but ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share with you something that has profound impact on my life. When I was young, and I, in the orphanage, we make up these stories, a family selected me, but it didn't work out. But the man next door had a hidden trap door, and and in his basement, I saw, and a light shone through the window and on this little piece of brass, and I took it, and you won't believe, and we just over present these things just to make our friends laugh. But it was a real lesson. It was a real lesson. We sleepwalk through the stuff we've been doing in all our lives. And then we over-present this new piece of thing to try to make our friends laugh. And that's what got the reaction from the audience, because we're throwing energy at it and working hard. So it's not self-working. You've got to work to make a self-working trick work.
Do you have a favorite
of self-working card tricks? Self-working tricks. I mean, depends on what you mean. I mean, as a kid, I kind of think like the ball and vase is sort of like a self-working trick, right? Mm-hmm. You just do the right thing, and a ball disappears and comes back, and there's almost nothing to it. But it's a satisfying. I put that in a magic set with a monkey, and you lift off the top of his head and take out his brain and put the head back, and you put the brain in your pocket, and then you lift off the top of his head, and the brain is back inside the.
and there you are evolving something and making it.
Yeah.
Is there a card trick that lay people insist on doing for you once they know you're a magician?
21 card trick.
Yeah.
Dum-de-dum-dum.
And what do you do when that happens?
I watch it and I say, "Nicely done." And then, I take the decks back and I do something else or moving on. Because, you got to give them, they really wanted that few moments of limelight on them, and I give it to them.
That's a smart performer thing right there. There really is. I mean, the other option, of course, and I have explored this option numerous times, is to fight back and not want to give up the limelight that I have been paid to create and or am in the middle of when somebody wants to do that. And I'm telling you, the idea of letting them be successful is a much better philosophy than strapping on the boxing gloves and going 2 rounds and using some sort of verbal gymnastics to put them in their place. This is a better idea. It's one borne out by years, I'm certain, of experience that you have that led you to this, but I think it's right on the money.
And also, it's my personality to be just more compassionate, to know what this person needs right now is that person needs a little attention, and I'll give it to him. And at a party, if that person is having a great time and he got the minute of limelight or 2 minutes of limelight, I'll give it to him because he's having a great time or she's having a great time and didn't cost me anything. And everybody else thought, oh, you're so clever, Bob, whatever. And now he's a star. And that's really my job as a close-up worker. I'm there to make everybody a star, that they feel good about who they are and what they've done and what they're able to do. That's me.
Here ended the lesson.
You're there for Bob.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.